This is Meredith from the Benniebarrefitness Pilates studio, and today I have for you some simple mat exercises to strengthen your body. We're going to start out working in a quadruped position, hands and knees, with the wrists directly underneath the shoulders, the knees about hip distance apart and directly underneath the hips. And we're going to begin cat-cowing through the spine. So we're going to exhale, draw that belly in, head and tail come down to the mat. Inhale, reverse and go the other way, belly dipping down to the mat, head and tail lifting up to the ceiling. Try to get as large a range of motion in both of these extremes as you can comfortably. Keep a steady flow of breath, and every time you pull that belly in, exhale and inhale as you go the other way. Now we're going to move into bird dog, sweeping the limbs off to the side. So opposite arm, opposite leg, reach out long. Sweep both to the side, draw back, and in. You may find that balance-wise, you can't quite do the sweep, or you can sweep on one limb but not both. So work with what you can do and build up to sweeping both at the same time, while you stabilize and steady through the other 2 points that are on the mat. Remember to keep a steady flow of breath and not to hold your breath throughout these exercises. Good. Right here, we're going to take the left leg back, and the leg is turned out in external rotation, and we're going into arabesque lifts, really getting into the glutes here. Try to stay stable throughout the body, particularly the spine. Maintain that neutral spine and make sure that your back and chest aren't moving all over the place. Switching to the other leg, reaching out long, the toes and knee are turned out, and we're lifting and lowering here. Stay nice and strong through the arms, making sure that the elbows and the shoulders are stacked over top of the wrists. And we have straight arms without locking out or hyperextending the elbows. We're moving next into a quadruped push-up. So we're on hands and knees, but these should still be challenging. We want to make sure that the elbows don't go wide. They draw straight in and they're just grazing along the rib cage while we dip our forehead down towards the mat. You should feel the burn on these, and they should not feel like any kind of sissy push-up. If it's too much to come your head all the way down towards the mat, go down as low as you can while still controlling and maintaining that movement, and then lift back up. We're moving now into cat-cow again. Right here, we're going to tuck our toes under and float the knees up and then slowly return them to the mat. We want to make sure that we feel like we're floating in both directions. This is really strengthening and activating the core. We want to maintain a neutral spine, and we want to float up into space and then slowly lower down. What we don't want to be doing is thrusting our knees off the mat and then letting them slam back down. You shouldn't be able to hear your knees hit the mat. If you're centered on your mat, you're going to want to walk towards the edge. So I'm walking still hands and knees, coming to the edge of my mat so that my body has room here to move into the plank prep, where we step one leg back into plank, then the other, and then return both knees to a kneeling position. So we press back the left, then the right, draw in the left, draw in the right. Left foot back, left foot in, right foot in. If you struggle with your position and posture for plank, this is a great exercise to work in. It doesn't require you to hold plank for a very long period of time, but it does help you to maintain that neutral spine coming from this kneeling place and help you to come into a secure and stable plank. Make sure that the wrists stay directly underneath the shoulders and that you're not compromising your posture when you reach back. It can really help to take that one leg back first, prepare yourself, press the other one back, and then come back in. So this should be a doable exercise for people that don't find planks to be comfortable or possible. Press back here into a rest pose, reaching those fingertips forward and stretching up and out of the armpits. Next, we're moving into a prone position on the stomach. Take the hands back so that the thumbs are pointing into the armpits, elbows are drawn in towards the side. We're going to take a combo move where we slowly press up into a push-up. Slowly lower down, making sure that the elbows are grazing the ribcage. They're coming straight back and not out to the side. And then we're going to press up into a swan, peeling up one vertebrae at a time, lifting up tall, keeping the shoulders rolled down and back, head nice and long, neck lengthening towards the ceiling, and then melt back down and prepare to do it again. You may not be able to lift up into a full plank position from here. This is rather challenging to come from a prone position and press up into that plank position. So press up to as far as you can and hold it there, and then slow lower down, then lift up into your swan and return back to the push-up. So we're just going to press up as far as we can, hold for a second to stabilize, and come back down. And then as we move into our swan, we're going to press up there, hold for a moment to stretch, and then lower back down. We want to be as controlled as possible here throughout this movement. Really smooth on that consistent press up and slow lowering down with control, holding your body in that nice plank posture and slowly lifting up into swan and slowly rolling back down. Now push right here back into a rest pose. Well done. That's probably the most challenging movement we'll do here in this workout. Next, we're going to be switching and coming to a supine position on the back with the legs floated up into tabletop. So when we come to tabletop, we want to make sure that the knees are stacked over top of the hips and that the ankles are straight out from the knee. We're going to start out with toe taps. So we're going to take alternating the feet, tap the toe down towards the mat, and pull back up. Holding that neutral spine, nothing else moves but a single toe tapping down and lifting back up. This is a simple movement, but if you're holding your pelvis and your spine in a neutral position, it's really great for strengthening the core. And now we're going to take that with some pacing. So we're going to cross those feet midair past each other. Once you get into this fast pace moving midair, you really start to feel that working. If that's too much with the pacing, stay with a single toe tap alternating. Now we're going to reach one leg out long, draw it back in, and reach the other. This is like our Pilates single leg stretch, only we're keeping the head, neck, and shoulders down and the arms down by our side. Make sure that your shoulders are rolled down and back and your fingertips are reaching long towards the end of your mat. Also make sure that your chin is slightly tucked and your gaze is straight up to the ceiling and not looking off behind you. Really stabilize through the pelvis. Now we're going to add in that pacing where one leg goes out and crosses the other on the way back. Rather than having that one knee in and tabletop to stabilize, it's moving in space with every change. Now a double leg stretch with the head, neck, and shoulders down. We're going to reach and lengthen those legs out long, And then draw the knees back in, both legs moving together. It's really easy here to let that pelvis tilt and to get air underneath the back and lose that neutral spine. We don't want to do that. So we're going to hang on to neutral right there and reach out. Taking the legs slightly higher, coming somewhere between 45 degrees and 90 degrees is important to do here, because if you try to reach out too far with your head, neck, and shoulders down, you'll probably lose that neutral spine. Now we're going to lift those legs together up towards 90 degrees for a double straight leg stretch. We're going to reach the legs out long and then draw back in to 90 degrees. We still have our head, neck, and shoulders down, but we are going to reach out towards a 45-degree angle and then lift back up to 90 degrees. If you struggled with neutral pelvis in this last one and losing it, you're going to be challenged here. We want to make sure that we're not letting our legs swing down and swing up, and so our pelvis is moving and we're getting air underneath the spine. We want to hold neutral pelvis, hold neutral spine, reach the legs long, and draw them back up. In case you're not sure what I mean about losing neutral pelvis and losing neutral spine, I'm going to show you right here. So if that pelvis rocks forward and your rib cage flares up and you get extra space behind your spine when you reach out, that's what that looks like, that shifting forward. And that's what we want to avoid here. We want to use the abdominals and hold that in place. Now we're going to come into bridging next. And let's talk about posture here for just a minute. So we want to make sure that we're not looking backwards and that the base of our head is against the neck, chin slightly tucked. Shoulders are rolled down and back, fingers are reaching out towards the toes, and our feet are parallel. We don't want them turned out. We want the toes going straight out, and we're going to peel up one vertebrae at a time into a bridge. We want to be a straight line from the knees to the shoulders. In other words, we don't want to flare through the rib cage or lift the hips up too high there. And then we're going to melt down one vertebrae at a time. So coming from a neutral pelvis, we're going to press the low back into the mat first, and then peel up one vertebrae at a time to that bridge position, and then we'll melt down one vertebrae at a time. Really think here about articulating through the spine. This is not about thrusting the hips upward. This is about that articulation, meaning moving one vertebrae at a time through the spine and then melting back down. You should feel a peeling sensation as you come up and then melting down. Bridge work can feel so wonderful for the spine if you're articulating through the spine and using your core appropriately here. If we're coming here and just trying to work the glutes by thrusting the hips forward, you may find that you experience some soreness in your low back. This time as we lift into bridge, we're going to hold this bridge position and we're going to lift the heels and lower them. We're going to try to lift evenly and with control and smoothly come down. You may find your legs shaking, your feet being a little uneven as you try to lower down the heels with control, and that's just fine. We want to control them up, control them down. While we hold that bridge, there's going to be a tendency for the hips to drop here. Try to keep them high the whole time and go ahead and roll back down. Now draw the knees in towards the chest and give a little rock from side to side, giving yourself a little back massage here. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope that some of these movements you have found to be helpful for you. You can join me for online Pilates classes on Patreon and more videos on YouTube. Thanks so much for joining me here in the studio.